Welcome to Beneath the Wing. Just like air passing over the wing of an aircraft provides lift, the people we meet can also give us lift in life by sharing their stories of strength and success, connecting us all. Beneath the Wing explores the stories of the men and women connected with the Minnesota Air National Guard's 133rd Airlift Wing. This special series is dedicated to our airmen's first-year stories. Hear from our wing's newest members, from enlisted aviators to electricians, aircraft maintainers to medics, and all jobs in between. These airmen have transformed from high school students to dedicated and involved members of the 133rd Airlift Wing family. In their own words, they'll share how they chose their military job, the connection they have with the team, and how they have changed from young civilian to American airman. I'm your host, Wing Command Chief Mark Legvold. Joining me today on Beneath the Wing First Year Stories is Senior Airman Madison Mitzuk. Madison is a graduate of Elk River High School in 2019. She's currently a student at the University of Minnesota. But more importantly, with the 133rd, she is a part of the 210th Engineering Installation Squadron, and I'm going to ask her to explain what exactly that is in just a second. Welcome, Madison.
Hello, Chief Legvold. Thank you for having me on.
Happy to have you on your show. This is going to be a whole lot of fun. So what exactly is the 210th EIS, or Engineering Installation Squadron?
Yeah, so the 210th is divided into engineering and the installation section. So I'm in electronics, and that's part of the installations, as well as a cable section. So what we do is install and maintain a lot of different communication systems. So I've been on preventative maintenance inspections, working on radio towers. We do some inside plant work where we work on server rooms, setting up those rooms, as well as outside plant work, which would be more with radio towers. And that kind of is a lot of what we do on the installer side. I don't know as much about the engineering side.
Well, that's okay. It sounds like a lot of work, Madison, that normally like a telecommunications company would do. Is that similar?
Yes, definitely.
Why would we need that type of job in the military?
So I kind of think of communications as like a backbone to the military. It's funny how easy it is to take for granted, because if you think about even just walkie-talkies or any kind of communication systems, we're constantly using them.
Fair enough. It's important for us to be able to communicate with one another if we absolutely have to, and there's an emergency somewhere out there, isn't it?
Yes, definitely.
Great. Well, let's get to your story and how you managed to get yourself into the 210th. You joined us at the 133rd Airlift Wing in January of 2020. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah, and you didn't go to basic training for about a year.
Yeah.
What was that time like where, you'd finished high school because you graduated from Elk River in 2019, spent a little time trying to figure out what to do with the rest of your life, I suppose, and joined us, and then you had a whole year. Were you working like a civilian job during that time?
So when I joined in January of 2020, I was at the U, and that semester was when COVID happened. So I finished off that semester at home, and then I went back to an internship that I had right out of high school, where I was working at a concrete pipe and precast company called Forterra. So what I ended up doing was working from that summer into December of 2020 until my basic dates.
Right, so you kept on working, making a little bit of money, and studying a little bit at the same time.
Yep.
It was tough getting through all of that. So you had that year. You came out to drill weekend, I suppose. And what is it that somebody does that hasn't quite gone to basic training? what do they do on a drill weekend when we're all in our uniforms and doing our military stuff? What's a student flighter do?
Yeah, so from what I remember, a lot of student flight is just getting to know other airmen and how the base works and how everything connects within the Air National Guard. So I remember doing a lot of, or a bit of shadowing, um, understanding what's going to happen before basic too. So we were given a lot of different material on rank structure. We were given the Air Force song, learning a lot of the basics so that when we go into basic training or um, get into our uniform, we're prepared.
Awesome. And then January of 2021 rolls around and we put you on a plane and send you down to Lackland Air Force Base. Even with all of that training and preparation and some of the studying and a little bit of the singing that you got to do, I'm not going to ask you to sing the Air Force song today, but maybe
Thank
next
you.
time, Madison. Uh, with all that preparation, did you feel like you were well prepared going down to basic training?
I did. I was pleasantly surprised because my basic training flight was actually made up of close to 50-50 guard and then active duty. Um, and what I found was the guards seemed to be more prepared, at least with understanding the rank structure and just knowing some of the basics. So that was really helpful going into basic.
It's a little weird going in and having a 50-50
Yeah.
class structure with half of it being guard and half of it being active duty. Normally, to my
Mm-hmm.
understanding, it's mostly active duty, and then the guard gets sprinkled in. Is that right?
Yeah, that's what I was told too. So it was surprising.
Yeah. Well, speaking of surprises, what was the hardest thing, the most surprising thing that you had to deal with down at basic training as a new trainee?
Yeah, I think um, COVID rolling into basic was interesting because we still had masks, and my flight actually ended up being quarantined early on. We had a couple people test positive,
Hmm.
and that alone was something that we all had to get used to. And then realizing that there are just a lot of changes overall, like we we really had to practice resiliency because I was there when the winter snowstorm hit Texas.
Mm.
So we didn't have MTIs for a few days, and we had to um, be flexible in that regard. And we were given um, like MREs to eat for a couple days.
So when you eat an MRE, that's a meal ready to eat, right?
Yep,
Well, those are those things that come in a usually a brown plastic bag and they can sit on the shelf for about 12 years and you can open them up and there's a little heater in there, isn't there?
there is. Yeah, it took some of us a while to figure it out, but it works really well for heating up food.
Absolutely. I can't imagine, but you make your way through basic training and it sounds like you and the rest of the flight there just had to go through some difficulty and some tough times in your training, but you made it through.
Yeah,
Were you able to get the big formal graduation at the end, or was that still pretty locked down because of COVID?
it was still pretty locked down, but so my family was able to look at it online. But we were all able to stand in our flights and receive our coin and go through everything. So that was really cool.
Awesome. How many people were in your flight?
I think they're about 45.
About 45. So it's basically a good sized like English class at the University of Minnesota, right?
Yeah.
But you get to spend
Yeah.
every single minute of every single day with these folks.
Yep.
That takes some getting used to, doesn't it?
It definitely does. I remember my first day being there, I was thinking, oh no, what did I get myself into? Because you get off the bus and you just hear MTIs yelling at people. um, but then you you're doing it with everyone else. So knowing that is reassuring. But once I got up to my dormitory, some of the girls started talking and I got to know where they're from. My flight, funny enough, had a lot of people from the Midwest. So one of the first people I met was from Wisconsin. And then you start to get yelled at by your MTI. But again, since everyone around you is going through the same thing, it's not as bad.
It's kind of that you get a kindred spirit with the folks that are going through the same stuff that you are. And for those that aren't quite sure, an MTI is what?
A military training instructor.
And those are the fun people with the round hats and the loud voices, right?
Yes.
You said that one of those first thoughts, it's pretty standard, is what did I get myself into? So I mean, everybody goes through basic training that joins the military, Madison, and you're right, you got yourself into something.
Yeah.
What brought you to us in the first place? To that, how did you find the Minnesota Air National Guard?
Yeah, so my oldest sister joined when she was in college, or partway through college, to help pay for it. And she recently retired, actually. But when I was younger, maybe third grade, she ended up coming to my elementary school's Veterans Day celebration. And that was like the first time I really kind of got an idea of what she did, because she came dressed up in her blues, and that was just a cool experience to see. But her and then my brother was active duty for a while in the Air Force, so they kind of directed me down that path.
Led you down the path to find the Air National Guard, and you didn't find a different branch, huh?
No, they were definitely advocating for the Air Force.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we're really glad that you did. And Madison, once you get in the door, did you know what job you were going to do when you took off and went for basic training? Or were you just going to let the Air Force figure out what you're going to do with the rest of your life?
No, I definitely wanted to see what jobs were available, and my recruiter gave me a full list of all the options, and what was available. And going in, since I've been undecided with school, I was thinking, okay, I'm going to do a job that I'm curious about or interested in, to maybe give me a better idea of what I want to do with school. And one of the options was an electronics job, and I was curious about that, so that's the route I decided to go down.
So are you, currently at the University of Minnesota, are you pursuing a degree in electronics somehow, or are you doing something completely different?
Well, I started off thinking I was going to go into electrical and computer engineering. And the Guard did kind of help me think about if doing something more related to electronics was right for me. Because I think I'd rather do something different, but it's cool with the Guard in that you can do two completely separate jobs. And that kind of mixes things up. So right now at the U, I'm considering minoring in biology because that's also something that interests me. And I've considered majoring in mechanical engineering, but I'm not 100% sure yet.
You've got a couple choices, but one of the neat things is 1 weekend a month, you definitely know exactly what you're going to do.
Yeah, and I love that.
Yeah. It's good to have a little bit of diversity in what you're doing with your life, and switching gears on weekends and when you deploy it's kind of fun. So speaking of deployments, Madison, since you've gotten back from tech school, and I'll ask you a little bit about your tech school here in just a sec, but have you gotten a chance to travel with the military?
I haven't been on a deployment, but once I got out of tech school, it wasn't until the next summer that I was put on a couple projects. My first one was a preventative maintenance inspection in Duluth and then Fargo. And then the next one was at Camp Ripley. it was a communications exercise. And then everyone within my unit also does training in Pennsylvania, which that was a really cool place to visit.
I'm sure there's a big difference. In Camp Ripley's up in kind of north central Minnesota, beautiful wooded area. Fargo's a little bit different. North Dakota is North Dakota. Tell me about Pennsylvania.
So Pennsylvania was interesting because the schooling was called Lightning Force Academy, and the base was called Fort Indian Town Gap. And so you go into the base, and any civilian can really go through it. But the whole training was for inside plant work. So that's when we're kind of setting up server rooms and understanding that component of the electronics section.
So some good training, a lot of good hands-on experience. Did you travel with a big team to that?
I traveled with one other person from my unit, and then within my class there are people from Pennsylvania. We had someone from Oklahoma, one from Massachusetts, I think. So people all over the place, which was kind of cool to see.
Awesome. So that is your fifth state, if I'm counting right, since you joined the military. You went to basic training in Texas. You've been to North Dakota, a couple places in Minnesota, Pennsylvania.
Yep.
After you finished basic training in Texas, we sent you to the beautiful and glamorous Keesler Air Force Base. Isn't that right?
Yep, that's correct.
Is it really glamorous?
Well, it was, in my opinion, more glamorous than not San Antonio, but basic training.
Sure. Where's Keesler?
Very hot. It's in Biloxi, Mississippi.
Okay, maybe not so glamorous. How was your tech school experience? It was pretty long down there, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I was there for 6 months, and I came in early March, so it was cool at the time. But that was still during COVID, so the base was on lockdown until I think late May. And then we were able to go off base, which was a lot of fun.
It definitely does help. While you were at tech school, you were learning just like you would in a regular vocational technical school, weren't you?
Yeah, so we would go to class Monday through Friday, and we would have, I'm trying to remember the terminology, it's been a while. We would all meet in the morning, and then march over together. And sometimes there would be what are called down Fridays. So we would have a Friday where our squadron would do an activity just to build morale, and then we'd have the rest of the day off, which was pretty nice.
Those sound like awfully fun days, especially if you can be outside and enjoying it together, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. What was the funnest part of your tech school? Because basic training doesn't sound like a whole lot of fun. You got those, happy people in round hats yelling at you a lot.
Yep.
But tech school's a little different. What was the most fun that you had there?
I would have to say I was a white rope in tech school, and so at Keesler, I think they have this at other bases too, but they have what's called a fishbowl, and it's kind of just like a community center where you can watch movies or play pool or ping pong. They have karaoke sometimes. So being a part of that was really fun because especially when we're still on lockdown, I was able to go somewhere else besides like the schoolhouse or my squadron. And I made a lot of good friends that way.
Yeah. Tough being away from home for 6 months. What was the biggest challenge at tech school that you had to overcome, Madison?
Yeah, I think it was probably just being on lockdown and feeling stuck in one place. Unfortunately, the people going through now won't have to deal with that. But it was also it took a little while to get used to, because they give you phases, where you're in your uniform for a week or two after you come to tech school, and that's just so that you can ease your way into kind of being more of a civilian again.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the start was the most difficult part, but kind of like basic, you weren't alone.
Yeah. It's good to go through those types of challenges together with a team. Now that you're back at the 133rd, working at our EIS, what's the team like there? Obviously, you develop a pretty close kindred spirit with the folks you go through basic training with and the people
Yeah.
you go through tech school with. But what's the team like at the place where you spend one weekend a month?
They're very supportive. They're they're easygoing, but they're also um, very much willing to help and make you succeed. So we're all trying to make sure that we get our work done, but also enjoy ourselves while we're doing it. So like my RF buddies are almost like brothers to me, because I know I can go to them for anything if I need help. And really with anyone within the unit, they just want us to be successful.
And now here you are, a senior airman, which means you've gotten promoted at least 3 times since joining the Air Force.
Yep.
Those are some big changes, Madison. Going from a civilian clothes wearing it under a weekend person to now kind of taking on that leadership role, learning how to lead, learning how to work well with other people and kind of be more of a mentor for the younger folks. Thinking back to your time at Elk River High School, graduating in 2019, your junior senior year, and the Madison Mitzuk and what she looked like then. How have you changed as a person since joining the Air National Guard?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would say joining the Guard has given me a lot of confidence, and just a lot of different ideas on paths I can take, in addition to college. So it's given a lot of options and reassurance, and knowing that like I have almost another family I can go to. I think it's also helped me grow in better understanding just the world in general. And it's just given me, I think, like a really cool perspective on how things work.
You've already seen quite a bit of the country compared to probably a lot of your peers that just went right to college after high school. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it takes a lot of courage to just step up, step forward, and hop on a plane and go to an Air Force base in Texas and meet a bunch of strangers, and then take that journey that you have over the last 2 years. And you've got 4 years left with us, Madison. What are your
Yeah.
what are you most looking forward to in the next 4 years? What are your goals?
Yeah. I I think I'm just looking to broaden my understanding of the Engineering Installation Squadron, and continue to go on projects. Um, there's one coming up that I'm pretty interested in because it's a mostly radio job, which I work in, or my job title is radio frequency transmission systems. So doing more jobs um, like that, I hope to do, as well as just like continue to get to know people in my unit, um, and yeah, seeing where all of that goes.
Yeah, when you talk about jobs,
Hmm.
when I think about a job, Madison, I think, getting up in the morning and putting my uniform on and driving to the base where I work. That's a job to me. You mean it a
Hmm.
little differently. How do you define a job so that, folks that don't quite understand what it is you do can little understand what a job is to somebody in the 210th?
Yeah. So a job is essentially um, an opportunity where you can use your skills in electronics or cable in terms of like my unit and practice it, at least for someone at my ranking level. Eventually, you'll get to a point where you'll become a team chief or a lead for a project. But I'm a bit less experienced, so I'm still learning quite a bit about different jobs. But with these jobs, basically, you can um, sign up for them. Like the next one I'll be on will be in California, and you'll eventually be notified if you're on the list or not. Um, and so if you are, you'll go and um, I guess perform whatever missions needed. And in this case, we're doing some radio installs. Um, and the team that you're with helps you along the way.
And so it sounds, Madison, like when you say job, you're actually picking up and traveling someplace and doing a job someplace. Well, California sounds like a really good place to be, especially since you and I are talking on a 1st of February and it's really
Yep,
cold in Minnesota. California sounds awfully nice. So
it does.
your organization gets to travel a lot and do these jobs around the world pretty much, right?
Yeah, I've had friends that have gone to South Korea, Germany, yeah, a lot of different places.
A lot of good opportunities to see some marvelous spots in the world, and maybe some places where it maybe not be so marvelous, but a great experience to travel with, like you said, the brothers and sisters from your organization.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Um, I asked you what your goals are here for the next 4 years of your career. Are you planning on making this a spot where you're going to stay beyond your original 6 years, or are you just is this a great place for you to start the big world and move on from here?
I've I've been thinking about that. And I'm leaning towards reenlisting just because I don't know if I can see myself um leaving just because the people are so great. Um and it's just really a unique experience and one I've really enjoyed. That and like of course there are benefits too which are really nice. But like I think the friendships that I've made so far I want to stay connected with.
Yeah. Well, it's good that you're a part of our Wings family, and good that you're part of that 210th. You talked about the benefits a little bit. What are the big benefits? Not just the friendships and the relationships, but what are the other benefits that you've received since committing to the military?
Yeah. So one that I've been using is state tuition reimbursement, um, which is super nice because it basically pays for all of your college. Um, that and I also have a GI Bill kicker, um, which I don't know if every job gets that in the guard, but essentially, whenever you're in school, you get a monthly stipend, which you can do what you want with. I think a lot of people use it for housing. So that's really nice to have too. Um, just knowing that you can, you don't have to worry as much about money with school.
It certainly does help, and you've chosen a
great university to attend, and will walk out of there with not a lot of debt, if any, and a
Right.
fantastic college degree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Madison, do you recommend this type of choice in service to other folks?
Yes, absolutely. Um, I think like the Air Force specifically is, well, I guess I'm biased, but um I've heard that we've got great food and good good housing. It's just a really supportive branch. And the opportunities within the Air Force too are just amazing.
It sounds like it's so far it's been a good choice for you, and each year it's a good choice for just a ton of people. Hey, I've been talking with Senior Airman Madison Mitzuk. She works with our 210th Engineering Electrical Engineering Squadron, and she is also currently a student at the University of Minnesota, and her alma mater is Elk River High School from 2019. Madison, thank you so much for joining me and sharing your first year story.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate it.
You got it. And I hope that if you're interested in hearing more, you tune in for another edition of Beneath the Wings First Year Stories. As always, thanks for joining me on Beneath the Wing, where those connected with the 133rd Airlift Wing, Minnesota Air National Guard share their stories of strength and success. We will be releasing a new first-year story each Tuesday and Thursday throughout the month of February, March, and April. If you think you are someone whose story could be a part of our Wings family here in Minnesota and are seeking direction for your next step in life, or you know someone who is, please explore our opportunities at 133aw.ang.af.mil and share these podcasts. If you're outside our local area but are still interested in serving in the Air National Guard in your state or territory, goang.com will get you started. That's goang.com. As always, I'd like to thank our public affairs section, especially Amy Lovegren, for her post-production and release work. I've been your host, Wing Command Chief Master Sergeant Mark Legvold.